The disciples couldn't believe that the ancestor had actually visited the mortal world. They started bowing and welcoming him. The cultivators were also confused, since they hadn't seen anything like this before. They thought that the road to immortality had been cut off. The immortal asked them who was the person who bullied his family. Before they could even say anything, they all started to lose their balance. The momentum of the immortal was causing them to shake. The force was so strong that they couldn't even move. Chief Gu told them that the Almighty hadn't even attacked them yet, but they were still stunned by his momentum. The Almighty turned to the disciples and told them that the mortal world had fallen into such a bad state. The Liu family hadn't produced a single cultivator with God's test cultivation level. He told them that it wasn't their fault, since the road to immortality had been cut off. After yapping for some time, the Almighty finally showcased his human form and asked the disciples how they managed to summon him, since they were so weak. Liu's soul flew towards the ancestor and told him that it was he who summoned him. The ancestor asked him who he was, and Liu proudly told him that he was the current head of the Liu family. The ancestor thought that he was getting trolled, so he requested to talk to a normal person instead of a soul. Liu told him that he had utilized his entire cultivation to summon. This made the Almighty enraged, and he told him that it was impossible to keep in mind the current state of the world. He told him that something huge must have happened for him to be summoned here. He looked back at Liu and asked him if the Liu family was in danger. Liu started crying like a child and told him that the three great houses had joined hands to finish them off. He pointed at the three of them and told the ancestor that they were the ones who attacked him. The Almighty looked at them with death in his eyes, and all three of them started spitting out blood. Chief Gu told them that it wasn't the Almighty who had visited them. It was just his after-image, but he was still this strong. They looked more like ants when compared to him. Liu couldn't help but laugh at them. Now that the Almighty had taken care of the situation, the Almighty asked the three of them why they had a death wish. Chief Gu barely managed to move. He told the Almighty that they came here on the orders of the expert. He was so powerful that even the Almighty couldn't afford to offend him. This made the Almighty angry. He told them that he was going to gather some merit for the Liu family and free them of their pain. In the blink of an eye, a huge fireball fell on top of them. To make things work, the three of them couldn't even move. The fireball landed directly on top of them, but surprisingly, none of them were hurt. As the dust settled, King Lu noticed that the thing that saved them was the copybook that Li had given him earlier. He finally realized that he had the most precious item all this time. The copybook had a poem written on it. Chief Gu was shocked to see that the copybook could block an attack from the Almighty. King Luo told them that Li had given it to him. Even Liu couldn't believe what he just saw. The Almighty smiled and said that it was surprising for such an item to exist in the mortal world. He then called the heaven-splitting sword, and it landed in his hands. Liu told them that the Almighty was going to use the celestial sword, which would increase his power a lot. The Almighty slashed his sword, causing a huge wave of fire to travel towards the three of them. Chief Gu screamed at King Luo and told him to fight. King Luo panicked, since he didn't know what to do. He simply pointed the copybook in the direction of the Almighty. Seconds later, a powerful attack hit the Almighty, killing his after-image. Liu screamed at the death of his ancestor and wondered what that powerful item was. All the while, King Lu couldn't help but appreciate the copybook that Li had given him. He even started crying since he was too happy. Suddenly, dark clouds covered the sky. The Almighty spoke again and asked them who had destroyed his after-image. He told them that whoever he was, they were going to die soon. King Lu turned the copybook towards the sky without saying anything. The next thing they knew, the copybook started levitating. Chief Gu and the second elder asked King Luo what he had just done, but he didn't understand it himself. The copybook slowly transformed into a sword, which was pointed at the sky. Liu laughed and told them that they couldn't scare him, since the Almighty was going to kill them all. Before he could even finish his sentence, the sword slashed through the sky, and the impact traveled through space, all the way to heaven. The sword had pierced the sky and attacked the Almighty in heaven. He literally got snipped in heaven. All three of them looked in confusion as they saw a huge hole appear in the sky. The sword had cut through the sky, and they could look straight into the immortal world. As the clouds dispersed, they saw a huge shining building and a beautiful garden with butterflies flying around that looked like the heavens. The second elder and Chief Gu wondered if they were actually staring into the immortal world. Even Liu himself was in disbelief, and he asked his dead son about the kind of people he offended, since they could even kill an immortal. King Luo asked if it was the end, But the second elder looked up at the sky and assured him that it was only the beginning. Moments later, the real body of the immortal started descending from the sky. Chief Gu said that the immortal realm must be similar to the demon world in the sense that it is in a special place up in the sky. O agreed with the assessment and told him that he had previously tried to find the immortal world by flying straight into the sky. He said that as he went higher and higher, it became difficult to breathe, but the immortal world was nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, Chief Gu and the second elder couldn't utter a single word at his stupidity. Chief Gu came to the realization that they had just killed an immortal. The three of them wondered what kind of beings would come through the hole next. Now that the immortal world was within reach, suddenly, a huge hand appeared in the clouds and began to grab the dead body of the elder. The hand grabbed the body of the immortal before it could fall onto the ground. King Luo wondered if the immortal was actually alive. Hearing this, Chief Gu told him that if such was the case, it would be stuck in a never-ending cycle of revenge. The second elder told them that Li would be furious if he found out about it. Scared out of his mind, Chief Gu asked King Luo if he had any more treasures from Li. Seconds later, he saw Luo burying himself in the ground. Bro dug his own grave. Chief Gu turned towards the second elder and asked him if he had any ideas. Before he could say another sentence, the second elder also buried himself in the ground. Gu screamed at both of them for cowering in such a situation. However, he knew that he had to do it himself. He faced the hand and said to himself that he couldn't allow it to bring back the Almighty. Chief Gu launched himself at the hand, trying to attack it with everything he had got. However, the hand proved to be a lot stronger as he was punched back to the ground. As he began to lose hope, he noticed a girl appearing from the clouds. It was Da Yi. She stepped on the hands, and within seconds, the hand was covered in a thick layer of ice. She looked straight towards Chief Gu and said the word end. As soon as she said it, the ice broke, destroying the hand completely. Seeing the immortal hand getting destroyed in front of him, Chief Gu fell to the ground in disbelief. He wondered who the girl was. King Luo and the second elder had gotten out of their graves by now. They knew exactly who she was. As the Almighty died for real this time, he looked at Da Yi and asked if there was actually a goddess living in the mortal world. The second elder looked at King Luo and asked him if it was all part of Li's plan. Luo made a serious face and told him that it was obvious since everything was part of his plan. Da Yi looked at the three of them and asked if they knew about Li's rules. They immediately bowed down and told her that they totally understood the rules. Chief Gu also claimed to know the rules, even though he didn't know what Da Yi meant. She reminded them that even the unrighteous people could possess great power. It was necessary for them to meet their demise. They all immediately agreed with her. Da Yi looked at them for the last time and flew away. After she left, Chief Gu asked them if they knew who she was. The second elder reminded him that he claimed to know the rules of Master Li in front of the lady, despite having no knowledge of them. He said that they would discuss the rules with him in detail later on. The second elder then suggested that they go back and report everything to Li. As they all stared at the huge hole in the sky, they all knew that a lot had changed that day. As Chief Gu landed back in the Green Cloud Valley Pavilion, he was greeted by an elder who told him that he wanted to discuss something. Gu ignored the man and told him that they would talk later, as he only came back to change his clothes and get ready to meet some big shot. As he reached the door to the pavilion's treasure room, he wondered if his son and daughter were home. The elder tried to stop him from entering the treasure room, but the chief proceeded to go anyway. As he stepped inside, he was met with, well, nothing, because his son and daughter had given away everything to Li. The chief screamed in agony as he realized that his whole life's work was gone. Even his golden water brush and the water shield were gone. The chief sat down on the ground, looking like someone who had lost all will live. The elder informed him that his son and daughter had taken all the stuff and given it away to someone with Li's surname. Chief Gu immediately got up and went back to normal. He told the elder that he understood why they gave all of his stuff away. Suddenly, Ziyao and Ziyu entered the scene. Ziyao told the elder that he knew nothing. She explained that if the gifts that they gave away to Li brought him some joy, it would be the biggest achievement for the Green Cloud Valley. She told them that since her father had the most precious treasure, they must give his treasure away to Li. Chief Gu didn't like his life's work being taken away, but he had no choice. He told her that she was right. She then revealed that Li loved his refreshing ball, so she gave it away. This made him spit out some blood as he commended his daughter. Ziyu noticed his father getting sad. He put his hand on his shoulder and told him that he understood the sacrifice that he was making. He told his dad that he had also given away his pets to Master Li. Chief Gu looked at his son in confusion and told him that his comparison didn't even make sense since his pets were nowhere near enough value compared to his treasures. That's what you get for being nice. The scene shifted to Da Yi and Li playing chess in their room. Both of them were hyper-focused, and it seemed like the game was even. However, after a few moves, Li managed to outplay Da Yi and won. She got a bit sad after losing, so Li tried to cheer her up and told her that her chess skills had improved tremendously. She told him that she only improved since he was the one who taught her. As the two of them were talking, Chief Gu, the second elder, and King Luo entered the room. Li got confused upon seeing the chief since he couldn't identify him. He asked him who he was, but then immediately realized that he was the chief. However, Chief Gu told him that he was nothing compared to him. He apologized for greeting him so late and said that he had to take care of some work. Chief Gu then came closer to Li and whispered in his ears that he didn't have to worry, since they had already completed the task. Upon seeing the old man so close to him, Li got a bit scared and wondered why he was telling him all this. Li told him that it was fine, since he had to deal with important stuff. The three of them got excited, since they thought that Li was satisfied with their job. As Chief Gu poured some refreshing water into Li, he started complimenting his poetry and cooking skills. The second elder and King Luo cursed him, since they knew that he was trying to gain favor from Li. Li told Chief Gu that when he saw him during the Lock Demon ceremony, he looked so serious that he didn't expect him to be this friendly in person. Chief Gu couldn't wait any longer, so he put his plan in motion. He told Li that he had a special gift for him, and took out a small space ball. He explained that Li could put all of his stuff inside the ball. However, Li refused to take the ball, since he had also received another gift from the Gu family. Chief Gu insisted, but Li told him that he couldn't accept the ball. Chief Gu was prepared to hear such a response, so he took a deep breath and came closer to Li. With his eyes wide open, he asked him if he could give him a painting in return. This left King Luo and the second elder with their mouths wide open, as they tried to comprehend what the chief was demanding. In Chief Gu's defense, he had given all of his precious treasures to Li, so he had to take this risk and ask for something in return. Otherwise, he couldn't continue living his life. Everyone held their breaths as they wondered what Li would say next. Out of nowhere, Li smiled and agreed to give him the painting. He grabbed his pen and told Chief Gu that he was like a role model for him. Li thought back to his visit to the treasure room and remembered the paintings that he saw. The three paintings represented immortals, demons, and devils. Li decided to draw an almighty as he began painting. His brush lit up the entire canvas, and a huge flame traveled across the room. The three cultivators watched in awe as they realized that they had been transported to another place. It looked like a desert with a mountain in front. The place was so hot that it burnt the bottom of their shoes. As Chief Gu looked up at the massive sun, he realized that this place might be in ancient times. The three of them looked up in shock as they saw a giant three-legged bird flying towards them. As the bird got closer, Chief Gu noticed that it was a divine bird. The bird did a drive-by and burnt all of their clothes with its flames. Li told them that he was done with his drawing, but it wasn't that good, since he didn't have much time. Chief Gu asked him what the drawing was about, and Li explained that it was a divine bird. The divine bird was the child of the Eastern Emperor and Shihi. The Emperor had given birth to 10 of these birds at once. Each of these birds represented a sun. That day, the entire sky was filled with sun, and people started to die from the heat. A brave man named Ho Yi shot down 9 of the suns and spared the last one. That was the sun that they could see from Earth. Li told them that it was a story from his hometown. The three of them were astonished by this and wondered if Li had witnessed the event himself. Chief Gu also began to wonder why Li had drawn a divine bird for him. Li held the drawing in his hands and said a famous proverb. He turned to Chief Gu and told him that the divine bird perfectly suited him. The second elder and Chief Gu went into a state of shock. Gu thought that Li was trying to push him forward. He began analyzing what he said. The proverb Li told him earlier talked about being satisfied when you were poor and giving away to others when you were rich. Chief Gu thought that Li was mocking him for not performing his tasks well and asking for a gift in return. If this wasn't bad enough, he also thought that the drawing indicated that Li would shoot him down like the sun. Chief Gu fainted at the thought of offending Li. He woke up in his room, frantically apologizing to Li. However, as he looked around, he saw that he was surrounded by his children. He told them that he had done something really bad. He started crying and said that he had caused a disaster during the Lock Demon ceremony and went on to ask Master Li for a reward. He believed that his actions had brought an end to the Green Cloud Valley. Xiao assured him that Li wasn't mad at all. He thanked them for their service and told her that he had a great time. While sobbing, Chief Gu asked her where Li was. She told him that he had left since he wanted to feed his dog. Before leaving, he invited them to visit their house in their free time. This made Chief Gu a bit more relaxed. The scene shifted back to Li's house, where the seven-tailed fox was seen running on a treadmill. She seemed out of breath and called out to Bai, saying that she couldn't run anymore. Bai ignored her pleas for help and told her that he was going to increase the treadmill's speed since she appeared to have improved. The poor fox cried, but Bai wasn't going to listen to her. They don't call him the best coach for anything. He maxed out the speed on that treadmill, which caused the fox to lose balance and get thrown back. Bai realized that he might increase the speed a bit too much. The yard was full of life as Li was gone. The fire dragon was trying to cook the pig alive. Meanwhile, the pig demon thought he was teaching him about cultivation. He asked the dragon about his progress, and the dragon told him to lie still. The pig demon complained about his back being hot. Blackie told the dragon to flip the pig, since his back was almost charred. Bai also joined in and told him that he should slow down the fire. Blackie said that they should also take a look at the snake to see how the beer making was going. They had trapped the snake inside a jar and were forcing him to make beer. As they were talking, the fox called out Blackie from behind. She made an innocent face and asked him if he could teach her the spells. Blackie realized that the seven-tailed fox had grown into an eight-tailed fox now. He started mewing and told her that he would teach her his dog paws from heaven's spell. Suddenly, someone announced that Li was back. Everyone in the yard panicked. Blackie kicked the seven-tailed fox out of the house instantly. Li opened the door with a huge smile and saw Blackie running towards him like a good dog. He commented that everything was exactly as he had left it. Li asked Blackie if he had done anything bad in his absence. Blackie started licking his boots to tell him that he had been a good boy. Li praised him and took a deep breath. Meanwhile, the pig, snake, and the fox were all piled up on each other outside Li's house. As Li began to unpack, he held the remains of the demon from the locked demon ceremony and wondered what it was. He didn't really like it and thought that it was ugly. However, since it was a gift from Chief Gu, he kept it, thinking that it must be a precious treasure. After putting everything on the shelf, he went out to eat with Da Yi. The demon's eye began to emit a dark aura around it. The demon aura continued spreading to the entire house throughout the night. By morning, it had reached the entrance of the yard. Li and Da Yi were exercising in the yard when Da Yi sensed some presence in the bushes. Li noticed her expression and asked her if something was wrong. She told him that she had heard something. Li turned towards the bushes as he got a bit scared. Before he could get any closer, Blackie leaped out and jumped towards him. Li smacked him in the face and started yelling at him for scaring him. He also blamed him for pooping on the floor. He grabbed him by the collar and dragged him out. As he was leaving the yard, the demon eye watched him from the window. The eye suddenly felt a presence, and Li appeared behind it. He picked it up and wondered how it got there since he had placed it on the shelf. He didn't think much of it and placed it back. However, as he was about to leave, he felt something strange. The demon eye tried to communicate with him and ask him if he wanted to be the strongest. Li was confused since he didn't understand what was going on. The eye continued to try and lure him in by offering girls and revenge. Li remembered that he had felt the same feeling before. However, he shrugged the thought aside and walked outside to eat breakfast. The demon's eye was left in shock, and it wondered why Li had shown no interest in its temptation. A few moments later, it started transforming into a female body. The demon was named Yu Wet Cha, and she had lived there for thousands of years. However, she had never met someone like Li who had ignored her charms. She wanted to use Li's body to find out who had killed her doppelganger in the mortal world. However, after this transformation, she didn't have much energy left. She tried to reassure herself and said that it was all going to be fine, since she could get enough energy by morning to appear in the mortal world. After that, she planned on overtaking the entire world. As she was maniacally laughing at her plan, she saw Da Yi holding her ice statue. Da Yi looked a bit puzzled. Cha thought that Da Yi was attracted to her temptations, so she went in and tried to lure her further. She asked her if she wanted to stand on top of the world and have a pretty face that no one could reject. Before the demon girl could say anything else, Da Yi slapped her on the face. This made the demon girl mad, but as she looked at Da Yi, she realized why her temptations weren't working on her. Da Yi already had everything that she was offering her. Da Yi made a scary face and looked straight into the demon girl's eyes. She warned her not to disturb Li's mortal life, otherwise she would be smacked to oblivion. This made the demon girl scared. Da Yi left the room, as Li called her, and the demon girl was left wondering about her identity. She decided to ignore Da Yi and Li for the time being, since she couldn't tempt them both. Just then, her eyes fell upon Blackie, who was sitting outside the room, casually looking around. She had found the perfect target. The demon girl started tempting Blackie with all sorts of things, but to her surprise, he didn't look interested in anything that she had to offer. This made her mad, since it was her third rejection that day. Finally, something relatable. The demon girl decided to attack Blackie, but the dog put her down using just one of his paws. As she lay on the ground defeated, she wondered if she had failed as a hero, since she couldn't even defeat a dog. Just then, her gaze fell upon the demon sword placed in the distance. This was her last chance. She felt hopeful once again, and tried reaching out for the sword. When she couldn't make it to the sword, she called it out and asked for help. However, instead of the sword demon, she was met with the sword Buddha. He placed his hand on her head and told her that they were from the same origin, so he was willing to guide her to forgiveness. The demon girl was confused, as she didn't know what was going on in that yard. The sword Buddha recognized this and told her to look around. As the demon girl looked around, she realized that it was no ordinary yard. She was completely surrounded by precious treasures and powerful beings. This made her scream out in horror as she tried to figure out where she was. Meanwhile, Li and Da Yi were out in the market, enjoying some steamed buns. Li noticed some people leaving the shop and asked the man why everyone was in such a hurry to leave. The man told him that a few days ago, the village's old pagoda tree was struck by lightning. The tree had been in the village for a few generations, but a single lightning strike split it up in two parts. No one was hurt by the falling branches, but people thought that the tree had a spirit and the lightning had caused the spirit to become free. They started praying at the tree. After finishing their meal, Li and Da Yi went on to check the fallen tree. Li told her that a tree like that only grew once every 1,000 years, so it was extremely rare. The tree looked like it had been split into two by an axe. Da Yi noticed Li's expressions and asked if he was feeling sad for the tree. He told her that he didn't expect the tree to be destroyed like this when he first saw it. He placed his hand on the tree and prayed for the spirit. After he left with Da Yi, a tiny seedling grew out from the trunk. Outside Lin's immortal pavilion, Qin and the rest of the elders impatiently waited for the pavilion master to come out of his seclusion. As Mengji came out, he looked pale and depressed. Qin was initially excited upon seeing her master come out, but got worried when she saw his condition. As she called him out, he told her to keep quiet, since he didn't have much time left. He told her that the state of the world had changed, and they were about to face a massive catastrophe. He looked up at the sky and asked her how they were going to survive. Qin questioned her about the catastrophe, but instead of answering, he told her that everything they knew would cease to exist. Qin nervously suggested that they should ask for Li's advice on this matter. Hearing this, Mengji's lifeless expression changed to a wide smile, and he quickly went on to visit Li. Looking at his face, Li asked him what happened to him. Master Mengji started coughing and told him that his time was almost over. He said that he was going to face a major catastrophe and didn't think he could survive unless someone helped him. Of course. Bro really wants those treasures. He hinted that he might be able to make it if Li offered some help, but Li simply told him that his situation was sad. Mengji screamed since Li was his only hope, but Li misjudged the situation and gave him a hug instead. He said that he couldn't help him in any other way, but if his death was really confirmed, he should just accept it and go out peacefully. Mengji realized that Li had given up on him. He accepted his fate and decided to face his death. As he was walking out, he saw a metal rod placed near the gate and asked Li what it was. Li told him that it was a lightning protection rod. This immediately clicked something in Mengji's mind. Li explained that he didn't want his house or the forest to catch fire after hearing about the pagoda tree that got struck by lightning. Therefore, he made this rod for protection. As he looked at Mengji, he saw him exploding with hope. He asked him again if the rod could actually protect someone from lightning. That night, Master Mengji sat at the highest point on the mountain. Qin and the elders were gathered around to witness the catastrophe approaching. The second elder wasn't sure if Mengji could survive the catastrophe. However, Qin knew that Mengji was too much of a coward to give up on his life. She was confident that he must have looked for a solution. Qin told the second elder that Master Mengji had acquired a lightning protection rod from Master Li, so maybe he could actually survive the thunder. As the time came near, Mengji sat on top of the mountain with complete determination, ready to face the challenge. In his mind, he imagined himself to sit silently as the storm raged around him. He thought that the rod given to him by Li was going to protect him from the thunder by creating a barrier. Mengji was confident that the storm wasn't going to hurt him. As the catastrophe began, Qin and the other elders looked at Mengji in fear. A bolt of lightning came straight for him and hit him directly on the head. At that time, the pig was hiding outside Li's house. Da Yi had instructed him to guard the house. He and the purple-haired demon girl were on the lookout for anything suspicious. Suddenly, they heard Li and Da Yi coming out of the house. Li was planning on performing an experiment with the lightning rod. He told her that the lightning rod was used to channel the lightning to Earth through a conductor. However, he wasn't sure if it was going to work, so he needed to perform the experiment. The problem was that he didn't have anything to use for this experiment. He couldn't do it in his house or in the forest, since there was a risk of fire. So he created a kite to lead the lightning elsewhere. Now, he needed someone to fly the kite. Since it was a dangerous experiment, Da Yi immediately told him that she had a friend who was willing to partake in the experiment. She grabbed the pig by his ears and placed him in front of Li. Li got scared after seeing a demon standing in front of him. She told him to address the pig as Mr. Wild Boar and assured him that he was a kind demon. Meanwhile, the pig was hoping that Li wouldn't eat him. Da Yi said that the wild boar had a hobby of helping people, so he was going to aid him in his experiment. She told him that he should use the boar to receive the lightning. He should change his name to Guinea Pig now. Internally, Li was a bit scared, since he never worked with demons. However, upon seeing Da Yi interact with the pig, he felt more confident. He thought of her as a Disney princess, who could talk to animals and even demons. Li handed him the kite and apologized in advance. Upon seeing the kite, the pig knew he was going to die. The kite had "come over here" written on it. That was supposed to lure the lightning towards the kite. Not to ruin the fun, but I don't think lightning can read. Anyways, the pig stood in an open area with the kite. He was trembling with fear and sweating profusely. He tried to calm him down and said that nothing bad would happen, as long as everything went according to plan. The pig got even more scared, as he wondered what would happen if things didn't go as planned. Suddenly, he heard the sound of thunder nearby. It was getting closer now. However, instead of hitting the kite, the lightning hit the top of the mountain where Mengji was sitting. This made them all confused. 15 minutes passed, and not a single strike of lightning hit the kite. Li asked why the lightning wasn't hitting the kite, and the purple-haired girl said that it was not normal lightning. It was the celestial Tao lightning that only hit the person who was going through God's test. This made the pig happy, since he thought that he was safe. He looked at Li and wondered if he had made the wrong prediction. On the other hand, Master Mengji was constantly bombarded with lightning strikes. After getting hit so many times, he finally realized that the lightning protection rod didn't actually protect someone from lightning. He remembered Li telling him that the rod wasn't the final product and advising him against using it for something serious. Master Mengji lay flat on the ground as he lost all hope. However, the lightning was still not done and hit him a few more times. Qin and the elders could only watch in terror as their master suffered. Qin told them that the celestial lightning was twice as strong as the normal one. The lightning rod didn't seem to protect the master. Instead, it looked like it was guiding the lightning towards him. Qin wondered if this was happening because Li was angry with their master. After getting hit for this long, the metal rod broke and Master Mengji lay still on the ground, wondering if Li had given up on him. Suddenly, he saw something flying in the distance. He lifted his head to try and see what it was. The object seemed to have something written on top of it. As Mengji focused on the object, he realized that it was a kite with the words "come over here" written on it in Li's handwriting. He wondered if Li was trying to call him. This made it a bit more hopeful, since he started to think that Li hadn't given up on him. Qin and the elders also cheered up as they saw a way out for their master. Mengji turned towards the kite and announced that he was going to Li. As he flew towards the kite, he carried all the lightning strikes with him. As the pig heard all those loud noises, he got a bit confused. However, he soon realized what was happening. This made him scared out of his mind. Mengji was coming directly towards him and the purple-haired girl, but he wasn't alone. He was also bringing the celestial lightning with him. The girl left the pig to suffer alone and ran away. He asked her where she was going, and she told him that she didn't want to die with him. This made him even more terrified, since he was all alone now. The pig started running to escape the lightning, but since he was still holding the kite, Master Mengji followed him. He thought that the kite was a sign from Li. Meanwhile, Li thought that it was his kite that was attracting the lightning. His faith in physics had been restored. He realized that his plan wouldn't work if the pig continued running away from the lightning. At the same time, he was also a bit concerned about him. The pig tried escaping, but he was too slow. Master Mengji caught up to the kite and hugged it like a teddy bear. This caused a powerful lightning strike to hit him. The electricity was transferred through the rope to the pig, who was also struck. The shock was so great that it made him faint. He woke up the next morning and realized that he was still breathing. The kite was lying close to him. As he was trying to figure out what had happened, he saw Master Mengji walking towards him. Mengji told him that he had saved his life. He thought that Li had sent the pig to help him. He shared the lightning strike with the pig through the kite and was able to survive God's test. The pig started crying and said to himself that he wasn't the helper but a victim. Master Mengji offered the pig assistance in case he needed any help in the future. However, the pig didn't want anything to do with him after his recent encounter. Master Mengji told him that his body was okay, but his hand was a bit cooked. The pig looked at his hand and it was completely cooked due to the lightning strike. It does look kinda tasty, to be honest. Master Mengji told the pig that he was going to eat it since he was hungry. However, the pig could see him drooling. After Mengji left, the pig saw Li and Da Yi walking towards him. Da Yi looked at his hand and told him that it smelt nice. The pig almost fainted since he knew what she was thinking. He immediately hid behind the tree in fear. Da Yi and Li stood at a distance and laughed. Da Yi asked him if the experiment had ended. She questioned if they were going to bring back the pig and cook it for dinner, since it looked tasty. The pig could hear all of it, and he wasn't pleased. Li told Da Yi to stop joking and walked towards the pig. He grabbed his hand and thanked him for his help in the experiment. He said that he was scared of monsters in the past, and that was the only reason he lived so deep in the forest. However, after working with the pig, he realized that monsters could also think and had some sort of spirituality. He looked at the pig in excitement and asked him if he was willing to work with him in the future. The pig couldn't speak since he was too shocked. Li gave him some medicine for his cooked hand and gave him an extra long cabbage as a thank you gift. He bid farewell to the pig. Meanwhile, the pig started crying as he held the cabbage in his hands. Later that night, all the other animals talked about the barbecue smell that was coming out of the pig's hand. The pig was hiding in the cave because he was scared for his life. Up on a tree, the eight-tailed fox waited for her sister. As Da Yi reached out to her, the fox got excited and jumped towards her. Da Yi told her to be quiet since Li was resting. The fox complained that Da Yi didn't even have time for her, ever since she started living in that house. She also told her about the creatures that lived inside the house and how badly they treated her. Da Yi smacked her on the head and told her that she was just lazy. If they weren't strict with her, she wouldn't have learned anything. Da Yi then congratulated her for progressing to the eight-tailed stage and told her that she had brought something with her. The thing she had brought with her was a dead body. Someone called 911. The fox was scared, as her sister had just dumped a body in front of her. Da Yi told her to relax and explained that it was the body of an almighty. This made Fox even more scared. Da Yi told her that she could transform into a nine-tailed fox if she ate the body. However, the fox wasn't ready to start chewing on a dead person. Da Yi told her that the body had more spiritual energy than a normal person, so eating the body would transfer that energy to her. Somewhere else, Master Mengji was ecstatic as he flew above the city. He had successfully completed the god's test, and it was an occasion of great joy for the whole Lin Immortal Palace. He considered himself to be a hero of the Lin Immortal Palace, and said that because of him, his sect would have a higher influence. As he was thinking about this, he noticed that the Lin Immortal Palace had several white clothes hanging. His picture was also displayed on the front. Mengji quickly realized that they were all preparing for his funeral. One of the disciples cried and said that their master had died while undergoing the god's test. He was turned into ashes, and even his ashes were carried away by the wind, so they couldn't recover them. Mengji landed behind them with a huge smile and asked them if they were talking about him. The disciples got scared and thought they were seeing a ghost. Inside the palace, the elders and Qin were having a fancy dinner in remembrance of the master. The Grand Elder told Qin that she was going to bear all the responsibilities of the palace now that their master was gone. Qin started crying and told him that she would do her best to continue protecting Lin's immortal palace. The Grand Elder gave her some vegetables and told her not to be sad. All of a sudden, Master Mengji showed up at the table. The two of them jumped as they thought that it was a ghost. Master Mengji looked at them with a blank expression and told them that he wasn't dead yet. The Grand Elder smiled and expressed his excitement at the news. Master Mengji screamed at both of them for having to decide everything, even though he was gone just for a short while. He asked them if they wanted him dead this badly. Qin tried to calm him down and told him that they could fix it. She said that they could simply turn the white cloth into a red cloth and celebrate. They used the musicians hired for the funeral to play happy music. Within seconds, the mood had shifted from a funeral to a celebration. Master Mengji spit out some blood, thinking how ungrateful they were. He told them that if Master Li had not helped him, he wouldn't be able to see them again. Qin told him not to be sad, since she had some good news for him. Back in the forest, all the monsters were preparing for dinner. One of the monsters asked the pig if he only received a cabbage. After putting his life on the line for the experiment, the pig told him that the cabbage was a gift from the celestial fox and her master. The monsters were unimpressed, and they told each other that the pig was happy with whatever little things he had. The pig told them that they were just jealous. He said that the celestial fox had chosen him for a mission, and he even put his life at risk. After everything, he received that cabbage. The pig paused for a second and looked at the cabbage. Tears started rolling down his eyes as he wondered if he actually did all of that just for a cabbage. He started crying, thinking that he was worthless. The two monsters told him not to be sad, since he still had his nice-smelling hand. The pig screamed at them again and started eating the cabbage. As he took a bite, the monsters were left shocked. The pig asked them what it was, and the snake told him that he was shining. The cabbage had spiritual chi. The monsters realized that the pig's spiritual chi had gone up. He started floating in the air, and his body slowly transformed. His cooked hand healed and became normal. Even his face changed, and he started becoming more and more good-looking. After his transformation, he told them that he had progressed from the OBE stage to the distraction stage. All the monsters realized that it was not an ordinary cabbage. They took a small part of it and mixed it in the food. After tasting it, their minds almost exploded. The cabbage had an incredibly strong spiritual chi. The pig told them that it didn't just have spiritual chi, but from a chef's perspective, the cabbage looked subtle. They weren't used to eating vegetables, since their diet consisted mainly of meat. However, this cabbage didn't even need to be cooked. Its raw taste was enough to make anyone faint. The three monsters danced in unison, as the cabbage did its magic. They were feeling their spiritual chi rising. After having just a single bite of the cabbage, they were prepared to go vegan. The snake couldn't understand how a cabbage could compete with meat. He decided to test it out by himself and went in to taste the food. However, before he could taste it, the monsters caught him and asked him if he was trying to steal their food. The pig told them that he wouldn't share the cabbage with them, since he had risked his life to get it. Back at the Green Cloud Valley, the ancestral stela was shining. Ziyao told her brother that they needed to sacrifice some blood in order to summon the ancestors. However, she was afraid that it might all be for nothing. Just then, Chief Gu entered the scene. He told them that the path to immortality had been cut for a long time, so this was their only chance to establish contact with their ancestors. Ziya reminded him of his injury, but Chief Gu wasn't going to back down. He told her that the sacrifice must be from the descendants of the ancestors, and if he managed to summon them, his sacrifice would be worth it. He used his sword to cut his hand and sprinkled the blood on the stela. The three of them looked at the stela in anticipation as they wondered if their sacrifice was accepted. Seconds later, a bright light from the sky hit the stela and it started shining. After a few seconds, they noticed their ancestor walking down from the clouds. Chief Gu started crying upon seeing his grandpa again. Ziyao and Ziyi were also shocked, since it was the first time they had seen their dad's grandpa. The ancestor went closer to Chief Gu and told him to stop crying. Meanwhile, the siblings aggressively bowed down to their great-grandfather. The ancestor laughed when he saw the two children. He asked Chief Gu about his father, but he told him that his father had passed away many years ago. It happened when the road to longevity was cut down, and the valley lost any support from the immortals. The devils used this opportunity to attack the Green Cloud Valley, which caused them a great deal of damage. His father tried stopping them, but in the process, he lost his cultivation. When an immortal cultivator was beaten, they could lose their insight or cultivation. The ancestor and Chief Gu both stood in silence for a moment. The ancestor commended Chief Gu and told him that he had worked hard. He said that life and death were natural, and since ancient times, there were only 3 people in the Green Cloud Valley who could ascend and become immortals. He He told him that his father sacrificed his life for the world. Chief Gu notified the ancestor about the difficulties that he faced during the Lock Demon ceremony. He told him that an expert helped them during the ceremony. The ancestor got curious and asked him more about the expert. Chief Gu told him that he was a saint. This made the ancestor laugh, and he said that it wasn't possible for a saint to live in the mortal world. Not just that, they didn't even exist in the immortal world. The only saints that existed were in the ancient times. Ziyu sided with his father and told the ancestor that he was telling the truth. He started yapping about all the things that Li had done for them, including killing an almighty. The ancestor looked at the boy and realized that his grandson was stupid. Chief Gu told the ancestor that his son might be stupid and good for nothing, but the things he said were true. Why you gotta roast him like that? When the ancestors still didn't believe them, Ziyu took out the painting that Li had gifted them. He asked him to look at the painting so he would see for himself how powerful the expert was. Upon seeing a single glimpse of the painting, the ancestors immediately realized that they were telling the truth. He apologized and said that he couldn't believe such a being existed in the world. Ziyu offered to open the painting again so he could have a closer. He said that he could feel the painting without even opening it. Ziyu asked him what he felt, and the grandpa got serious. He told them that the feeling he got was that the painting was really good. Both Grandpa and Ziyu started laughing while Ziyu and Chief Gu stood in the background with blank faces. Chief Gu told him that he had sacrificed so much blood to summon him and that he was here just to yap. The ancestor told him that the painting wasn't ordinary. Before he could finish, Ziyu interrupted and said that he knew that the painting contained Dao flavor. He asked his great-grandpa if he was right. The ancestor looked at him and told him that he was right and wrong at the same time. This is the first time he was right about anything. The ancestor explained that the painting was considered a treasure, even in the immortal world. It wasn't for the Dao flavor, but due to the divine adhesivity. In simple words, the painting had a spirit, and it was a living being. All three of them were shocked at this revelation, since they couldn't believe that the painting was actually a living item. The ancestors asked them about the contents of the painting. Stupid Ziyu tried opening the painting again, so his great-grandpa punched him into space. Bro is the one-punch man of this universe. Chief Gu explained that the painting contained a picture of a three-legged crow. The ancestor asked him if he was sure that the painting was actually a three-legged crow. Chief Gu told him that he could open it to see for himself if he didn't actually believe him. He was also punched to space. The ancestor started thinking, since even the Almighty in heaven had never seen a three-legged crow. He wondered if the expert was a mighty person who had been present since ancient times. He realized that it was a bigger issue than he thought and that he needed to report it to his master. He called out to Chief Gu and asked him if he knew why the people of the Green Cloud Valley could become immortal and live a good life in heaven. Chief Gu asked his grandpa to enlighten him. The ancestor explained that since every generation produces a man of talent, it is hard for them to compete and become immortals. That is why getting favors from the Almighty is more important than working on cultivation. As a result, a lot of people choose to get along with the Almighty instead of working on their cultivation. The only way to success was to work harder and better. The three of them realized that it was all about gaining favor from the powerful people. The ancestor told him that he needed to go now, but Chief Gu stopped him and said that he had something to ask. He told the ancestor that the expert had asked for a flying beast. The ancestor told him that they should at least give him a divine bird. They might not be able to find such a bird in the mortal world, so he chose it himself and brought it back from heaven. Ziyu asked him if he could actually bring a divine beast back from heaven. The ancestor told him that he could also bring his wife if the expert asked for it. Okay, this man is going too far. The ancestor told them that it was time for him to leave. However, for some reason, he just couldn't go. The three of them looked at him in annoyance. He told them that he didn't feel at peace since the painting was so important. Chief Gu knew what he was getting at, so he gave him the painting, and the ancestor quickly vanished. Up in the heavens version of the Green Cloud sect, the ancestor ran excitedly with the painting like a 3-year-old girl. The girl asked him what was going on and why he was in such a hurry. He simply told her that it was a really big deal. The girl told him that she already knew that an Almighty had died and that his body was in the mortal realm. The Gu's ancestor immediately stopped and looked at her in confusion. The girl asked him if it wasn't a thing that made him run like that. The scene changes to a beautiful garden where several girls are waiting for their ancestor, Gu. They welcomed him with excitement since he was their grandpa. Grandpa told them that he had brought them many gifts. The girls asked him why he visited them. He told them that he had some good news that he wanted to share. The girls immediately started asking him what the good news was. The grandpa told them that he just found out about an expert who lived in the mortal world. The expert won a flying beast, and that's why he was here. He told them that if any of them were chosen by the expert, they would have unbelievable opportunities. The girls asked him if they were supposed to serve the expert as his wives. However, Grandpa told them that they would act as his mount instead. This made the girls laugh out loud, since they thought that he was joking. Grandpa also started laughing and told them that the expert he was talking about was an almighty person who had painted the three-legged crow. He speculated that he might even be from ancient times. He said that everyone could not become his mount, and if he wasn't a human, he would become the mount himself. He asked them if they really thought he would let them know of this opportunity, if he could become the mount himself. Suddenly, Gu's ancestor heard a voice coming from a tree. It was another girl. She told him that if such an opportunity existed, she would gladly give it to him, since she didn't want him to feel that she was superior or acting unfriendly. All of the girls immediately agreed with her. She got down from the tree and asked the girls if any one of them was brave enough to go into the mortal world and have a bit of fun. Ancestor Gu laughed and said that she knew the regulations well, since she was a phoenix descendant. All the girls start telling Ancestor Gu to choose them. However, he rejects them all, saying they are not good enough. After he was done rejecting them all, they got angry and asked him who he thought was the best fit for the expert. The ancestor laughed at this question. Meanwhile, Li was out at the spiritual Sun Lake with Da Yi. It was a fishing date, but for some reason, it felt a bit awkward. Both of them just sat in the boat without saying a single word. It was his first time going on a date with a girl, so he didn't know what to do. "I feel you, bro." Li looked at Da Yi and noticed that she was hyper-focused on fishing. He didn't want to talk since it would disrupt her focus, and she would think that he was too annoying. Da Yi noticed him staring at her, so she asked him if her fishing technique wasn't good. She got upset and told him that she was trying her best, but was too stupid to do it properly. Da Yi stood up and requested him not to get angry with him. Li panicked upon seeing her get up, since it could unbalance the boat. He grabbed her before she could fall and told her that it was dangerous. Da Yi apologized, and suddenly, the two of them heard the voice of a man, asking them if they were also fishing. He saw that the two were on a date, so he apologized and asked if he had disturbed them. They told him that he didn't disturb them at all. Li looked at him and noticed that his appearance had changed. He asked the man if he had gotten more attractive. The man told him that he had been visiting the lake since he heard about the sunfish sightings. Eventually, he started losing weight, and now he looked like this. However, he didn't expect the fish to get smarter since he hadn't managed to catch a single one yet. Li told him that he also thought there was something wrong with the fish in that lake. The man looked at Li and asked him if he knew how to fish. Li told him that he got a bit bored at his home, so he learned a little about fishing. He pulled his net out of the water, which was now filled with hundreds of fish. This made the guy mad, since he had been trying to catch a single fish for so long. He asked him how he could fish so well, despite knowing just a little bit about fishing. Li told him that he also found it weird, and thought that the fish in the lake were crazy. The fish were actually trying to get hooked to his bait, since they wanted to get eaten by him. Li wondered if there was some spell in the lake that was causing the fish to act that way. At a distance, the pig and the mouse girl stood staring at the three of them. The girl asked the pig if he had done everything she asked him. The pig told her that he had strictly ordered the fish to only bite on Li's bait. After fishing, Li offered the man some of his own fish, but the man refused. Li insisted, telling him that he had caught a lot of fish, so taking them back was a bit tiring. The man finally took the fish and asked him if he was going back. Li nodded and said that it would be okay if there was actually a spell in the lake. However, if the fish were acting that way because of a monster, he might be in trouble. Moreover, he would also put Da Yi in trouble. The fisherman laughed and told him that there was no monster in the lake, since he had been fishing there for a while. He said that he didn't expect Li to know how to operate a boat. Suddenly, all the fish the man had fell into the water and started floating away with the net. However, it wasn't just the fish floating away. They noticed that their boats were also being pulled towards something. Li realized that they were in a whirlpool. The man panicked and asked how everything Li had said had become real. Da Yi asked Li to allow her to paddle, but he grabbed her and told her not to panic. He assured her that they would be fine. Li called out for the man to hop on their boat. He had learned how to paddle a boat thanks to the system. He stood up and kept a parallel position to the current while balancing the boat. The boat kept circling the whirlpool. Li used this speed to try to get out of the current. When the time came, he shouted for them to paddle in the opposite direction, and the boat managed to escape the whirlpool. After they got on land, the man commended Li for his amazing skills. Li told him that he was lucky, that he had learned a bit about paddling a boat. This made the man scream out, since what he saw wasn't just a bit of skill. Dai Yi told them that something was fishy. Sorry for the pun. The whirlpool had magically disappeared, and it seemed like nothing was there at all. The three of them wondered what was going on with the lake. As they sat there, Qin Ji-yun and Master Lin flew above the lake. Qin Ji-yun asked her father if there was a relic of the Almighty in the lake. She mentioned that she had observed 4 relic appearances in less than a month, which seemed a bit odd to her. She looked at her father and asked if the matter could actually be related to Master Li. Master Lin told her that he had heard rumors about the Li family and their ancestors being eliminated. He even saw the hole in the sky, which showed the heavens. Master Lin asked his daughter if someone else besides Li had the power to do all that. He said that the world didn't deserve him, so maybe he went back to heaven. As he started crying, Qin Ji-yun noticed Li standing with Dai Yi and the other guy. She excitedly told her dad that Li was back. Master Lin immediately started flying towards Li without even thinking of anything else. Qin Ji-yun asked him if he wasn't going to look for the relic anymore, but it seemed like her dad didn't care about it when he saw Li. As the man took his lake, Li turned to Dai Yi and told her that they should go back too, since the lake was dangerous. Just then, Dai Yi noticed 2 shadows forming behind Li. It was Qin Ji-yun and her dad. Master Lin greeted Li and asked him if he was also interested in the relic of the Almighty. Li got a bit surprised upon hearing this, and asked him if he really meant what he said. Li thought to himself that he had only heard of such treasure in video games and novels, so he was excited that stuff like that existed in that world. Li asked him if the whirlpool they just experienced was caused by the Almighty's relic. Master Lin told him that he was looking for the relic along with his daughter, and offered Li to join them. Li told him that he was interested, but paused for a second, and got super close to Master Lin. He then slowly asked him if it would be dangerous. Lin told him that since they were traveling together, they didn't need to be scared of anything. Li thought that Master Lin was the one who would protect him, so he agreed to go with him. Master Lin told him that they couldn't find it right now, since it was nighttime and the monsters were going to be super strong. Li asked them if they should go early in the morning. Master Lin agreed and told him that they would do it the next morning. Now, they needed a place to camp. Fortunately, Li had a boat that was given to him by the system. He placed it in the water, hoping that it would safely allow them to stop by the lakeside. Master Lin and Qin Ji-yun were truly impressed by Li, but he wasn't done yet. He started taking out more stuff from the system. The father and daughter looked at him and realized that their mortal brain couldn't comprehend him. Li told them that it was time for them to make some arrangements. The scene changed to 2 monsters flying on the top of the lake. One of them asked if they were at the lake that had the Almighty's relic. The other monster confirmed it and told him that the energy emanating from the relic was quite unique. He was sure that countless cultivators would arrive the next morning to try and steal the relic. He told the other monster that they needed to steal the relic tonight, otherwise they would lose the chance. Just as they were talking, 3 cultivators showed up at the spot. One of them looked like a little girl. She told them to think twice before thinking of stealing the relic, since they weren't strong enough. Their names were Taoist Zheng Tai, Taoist Lully, and Taoist Yu Jia.